Do you ever catch yourself thinking about the past, like literally living in the past, wondering what if, like what if I would have, could this be, right? Like what if I would have took a risk and stepped out of my comfort zone and did something I was scared of? What could have happened if I would have just stayed persistent or be consistent or not give up? Right? Like that's called regret. Like you are regretting it. You may not think you are, but that's a form of regret. And what I'm going to share with you in this video is how to identify opportunity and ensure that you're not caught in the future wondering about the past. Now, in order to avoid regret, we have to understand, what even creates regret. And typically what creates regret is the decision making we're making now. Right? And of course it's decisions we made in the past that catch up to us now, where we're looking back and we're thinking, well, damn man, what if I would have done this, or what if I would have done that? And the difference between those that have and those that do not have are the actions that they both take, right? Because there's two groups. And what I found in my research, because that's all I do is, man, I just study. I don't watch any real TV. I don't really do anything besides study and try to be better and establishing a brand. And overall, I'm looking at different, mentors that I have, both sales mentors, managerial mentors, my manager, the CEO of my company. I watch them from afar. And so I try and study and become more emotionally aware of how they act, they hold themselves, how they react, and how, they go about the situation. And it's interesting when you look at it that way, rather than just be part of the traffic, right? Not just kind of riding the boat, like you're making the waves so that boat rides you. And that's what I've noticed is that between the two groups of those that have and those that don't have are really down to the actions that they take. And I'm not saying that, the successful people never lost. If anything, the successful people are the ones who lost the most. Like they've been burnt, they've gotten the most bruises, but because of that and their willingness to continue proceeding and continue going down that path, it rewarded them with the experience that they need to win the next time they go down that path. And so I set out a meme today, and it was this morning on the Instagram feed. If you're not on the Instagram feed, definitely check out the Instagram page. There's a link below the video, and it'll route you straight there. All you gotta do is just hit follow, and you'll get that daily dose of hustle, that momentum, that that aha quote or that post that may just spark and create the difference in your day, so that you can identify those opportunities. Now let me explain why I'm sharing this with you, because for those of you who've been following me already on Facebook and YouTube, I appreciate you. But those of you who've watched my content already, I've dived somewhat into my background and how I've learned and how I've came up from those particular experiences. And no matter what the situation is, whether positive or negative, I am humble enough to know that I've made mistakes, right? And I'm not going to sit here and point blame. I'm not going to sit here and blame my dad or blame, not living with my mom and dad growing up. I'm not going to blame those things. I'm not going to blame the fact that I grew up in a bad neighborhood. I'm not going to use that as a crutch to stay in that bad neighborhood. But again, the difference between those that have and those that have not are literally the actions that they take. And so how can someone from, an undeveloped background, an untraditional background, and this is not just me, this is literally across society. You see it all the time in movies, you read it in books, you see it in the news, you see artists, like music artists, do this same thing. But why? Why is those that come from a specific background seem to make it further from those who don't? In other words, why do some win through adversity and others don't? And to some degree, it's because of the adversity that they've had throughout their childhood that gives them the thick skin to withstand the adversity that comes ahead of them. And so then they're in a position where they're not as scared. They're more reactive, right? Well, in terms of an opportunity opening a door in front of you, for this example, You know, when opportunities open doors in front of you, at first you don't realize it's an opportunity. But here's a tale that will tell you it's an opportunity. Typically it's something that's out of your comfort zone. It's something that you couldn't even fathom doing. But it happens to be in line with what you want to do, what you want to, or where you want to be. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, then it's going to be in line where ultimately at the end of that challenge, you're going to be an entrepreneur, right? And the way to distinguish the difference in identifying, you know, whether or not it's an opportunity, is you need to look at the challenge and determine whether or not it's in line with what you have as your big plan, your big goal, your dream. And you might say, well, Daniel, I'm too young to have a dream, or Daniel, I don't know what my dream is, or Daniel, I know what my dream is. Wherever you stand right now, you know, a dream is something where you desire to be. And so you could look at, like, let's just use an example, right? Like Jay-Z, right? Like you could look at Jay-Z, man, I want him. I want that lifestyle. I want his fortune. I want his fame. But you also have to open your eyes to the other side that the cameras don't shoot, that they don't show on the highlight reel, that they don't show in the music video, that they don't really talk about in an interview. And it's the problems that come with that life. And so, you know, this man I'm sure is working all the time, or he had to work all the time, hustle, make moves to get to where he's at. And so what you're now seeing is the results of him winning. But what we don't see, and sometimes what we overlook, is that road or that journey that he had to get to where he is right now. And so I'm just using that for example for someone who I would imagine you would know, you'd be familiar with. And you could use it to an example that, you know, you have in front of you, like a physical example, a real life example, whether it's your parents, whether it's your mentor, whether it's your manager, it's yourself. You know, you have to look at yourself and say, man, before this, I wouldn't have never imagined I was here. I would be here right now. And so I'm going to share with you, you know, an opportunity that came in front of me that I thought life was over. I thought everything was just going to crumble. And this had to do with the economy collapse, or the real estate bubble that happened in 2008. And in 2008, you know, I was a mortgage broker. You didn't need a license back then. You didn't need, you know, you just needed to be good at sales. And I was making real good money. You know, on average, I was making between like 30 to 50K a month. And then 2008 happened, where credits just started drying up. Like banks were not issuing credit. It became hard to get financing. And I relied on that. That was my plug to create income, you know, and you can have as many clients as you want, but if you don't have no backing or source to fund their needs, or fund their loan, or fund their, you know, whatever their goals are, then they don't need you. And on top of that, they don't, you know what I mean? Like, unless they use me and my service, I don't get paid. And so it's similar to you in your sales position, or similar to you in your business, where if a customer does not use you, then you just simply don't get a transaction. You just do not get any money. And that happened in 2008. You got to imagine, coming from a lifestyle where you're earning 30 to 50 a month, as young as I was only about 27 at the time. You know, and at that time, like, you get comfortable, you live within that means. Like you have this idea that it's just not gonna stop, right? Like, it's always gonna be good. And when that shit slaps you in your face, and you're like, oh shit, and you didn't plan for it, like you don't got reserves, or you know what I mean, like you didn't make the calculated moves to position yourself to be safe if in the event the market did collapse, like you didn't plan ahead, then you're gonna have to figure shit out real quick. And what happens is, when you have to or when you have to make a decision under pressure, you typically don't have enough time to really think and analyze the situation at hand. And so when the doors closed on being a mortgage broker in 2008, I looked at it as a negative. I looked at it as like, oh man, what the fuck am I gonna do? I'm not gonna be able to live this lifestyle. You know, I was too drawn in on what I was losing, rather than seeing the opportunity that was in front of me. And so, and I'm happy that it did happen, because it was a smack of reality. I was living well beyond my means. You know, I was young and dumb, and I was making a gang of money. You know, what else would you do? And so, you know, besides having a beautiful house, besides having the cars, besides having, you know, the jewelry, the fancy clothes, besides having the recognition. When I lost that money, I lost my identity, you know, and you go through like this phase of depression, of regret or remorse of, man, what if I would have, or if I would have done this, could this have been, you know, you start kind of backtracking. And I would say the only way I was able to come up and dig myself out of that hole was because I reflected on what had happened and I studied it. I looked at it as a whole. I looked at it as, okay, this does suck. This fucking sucks balls. But at the same time, I know that I'm going to grow from this. And so what happened when the market declined is I went into a different line of work. I was still in sales. I went to selling paving stones. I worked for this company called Systems Paving. I was killing it too. And what you had to do is you had to go door to door. You know, you had to see the broken concrete or drop off your flyer, and you were just soliciting. And I went a different way about it. You know, I didn't go along the norm that the other sales representatives were doing, or just knocking on doors in their neighborhood. I found out everywhere we completed a project within my vicinity, and I hit up those neighborhoods, and I used their neighbor as a reference point, and that gave me business much faster than if I was just walking, you know, down some random neighborhood dropping off flyers. But I did that too. You know, I'm not gonna say that I only stayed to one set location. In sales, you gotta market yourself and make sure you're known. And so that's just what I did. But long story short is that taught me so much from selling from a face-to-face point of view, and it taught me a lot of the tools and the lessons that I've learned before from selling over the phone or selling home loans. Sales is sales, and it helped me discover that there is a science to it. You know, it's not per industry. Like, you might think that there's a difference between selling someone a house or a car, because visually you see the price tag, you see the commitment, you know, there's different qualification factors, but at the same time you're still selling a solution to a problem that a person has and doesn't want, or you're giving them you know, a lifestyle that they want but don't have, right? And so you're providing a solution, and that's what sales is. But the problem is, though, is when you kind of just, again, you're just riding the wave, you're not necessarily making the wave. It means you're kind of just going along for the show. You're not really putting forth any effort. You're just enjoying the ride. And so, for example, for those who enjoyed the ride, the last 2 years, 2014, 2015, was a time where, you know, if you had an NMLS license, which is a mortgage license, you could have made just easily six-figure income per year, and you didn't even really need to know how to sell. You just needed to be licensed and understand the logistics of putting together that loan. And so for those of you who are in that boat, like, you're not necessarily ready for the sale that's going to happen in 2018 and the years moving forward, and you see the door closing on refinance business, you have to stop and say, hey, don't fucking freak out. Don't think that this is the end of the world. If anything, this is a new opportunity, right? And this is a new opportunity to learn a different product, which may be purchase loans. It may be selling, instead of a consumer, selling to a realtor. And so you just have to adapt so that you don't catch yourself a year from now or in the future looking back and wondering, man, what could have been if I would have just did this? You know, so keep an eye out for the opportunities. Again, understand nothing comes easy, and you're going to run into opportunities when you least expect it. And at first, you're going to see adversity. You're going to see something foreign, something unknown, something you're just not sure about. And because of that, it's going to be your fear that pushes you back. And when your fear pushes you back, it just closes that door on opportunity. Or that door of opportunity might stay open, but you just have to, you know, have the cojones to walk through that bitch. But if you don't walk through it, you will never know. So how do you know if you should even take the time to walk through it? Weigh the upside. Compare it to the downside. The downside is a sacrifice, the time, the effort, you know, the cost, right? Whereas the upside is it a bridge to where you want to go? And if it's a bridge to where you want to go get it, boo-boo. Go walk through that fucking door. Ain't nobody stopping you. What will help you though, and what will lift you up to walk through that bridge is knowing that there are just too many resources to fail. There's a lot of free content, a lot of free information like the one you're getting here, whether you need motivation or a go-to to know how to do something. Like, there's just too many resources. There's so much that you need to be careful also, because you know, it's instinctively we want the easiest way. We want the path with least resistance. And so sometimes we'll buy into that quick get rich scheme, and that shit just don't work. And that's a bite in the hand, but it's something you're going to learn from. So beware, but be cautious. Understand that if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. But in the same breath, don't be too scared or too reserved to at least look into it. You gotta look into it, research it. You gotta fucking access to the World Wide Web inside your pocket, so there's no excuse to grow. I hope this video helps you. If it did, please comment below, like, share the video, and more importantly, I appreciate your attention for watching. Thanks.